another kind of strange turn.
Then there's the case of Travis Walton, a forest worker in Arizona.
We saw an object hovering near the road, a glowing disc about 25 feet in diameter, and we could see it very distinctly.
Travis Walton says he too was knocked unconscious, but even more than that, he woke up to find himself on board some kind of spacecraft with a crew of alien creatures. He described what he saw to an artist, and this is the result.
I got out and went up close, for a closer look, and deciding that was a little too dangerous to be that close, I raised up to turn and go when that beam shot out of the bottom of this craft and struck me and knocked me unconscious.
He did see a strange light. He was hit by some kind of electrical energy, but he says he woke up on board a spacecraft facing alien creatures.
Well, they were basically humanoid in form, about 5 feet tall, and they were white-skinned, very pale white, and with a normal arrangement of features, except for very, very large eyes and no hair on their head.
Now, his definition of what he saw is very similar to what we consider gray aliens. The only difference is he said they weren't really gray skinned like a lot of people say in abductions. He said they had very pale skin. And a lot of his memories came from just flash memories that he got when he came to and from hypnosis. And I know people out there that are skeptical would say, of course, he created it all in his head through the hypnosis, which could possibly be true. But 7 men saw the UFO. 6 other men saw the UFO hit him with a beam of light. So that part is not just something he created during hypnosis. The different part of the story that he has from your standard everyday abduction case is under hypnosis, he recalled being, which a lot of what you see in the movie Fire in the Sky is completely different from what actually or what he remembers happening. What happened was he woke up to these white aliens, we'll just call them gray aliens, had him on a table, and he wasn't paralyzed, so he sort of tried to fight them off. And he ran out of the room into another room. That's where he saw another, assuming alien, but he said this alien looked human. And a lot of people speculate that they were a Nordic alien, which, if you know anything about alien types, Nordics are ones that almost look human, except they're taller and more muscular with sort of thinner hair. And he said this human looking being who had a space helmet on took him to another room with a chair, and he sat on the chair, and then the next thing he knows after that is when he woke up in the middle of the highway seeing the UFO take off through the sky. So that's your basic story. And as I stated a few minutes earlier, a lot of skeptics came in making all of these accusations. This is what I really don't like about the professional skeptics, is they have conclusions before they actually do any investigation, if they do any at all. And one of the skeptics actually contacted one of the other loggers and offered him $5,000 to go public and tell everybody that they made it up. He clearly turned it down because They didn't make the story up. And as I stated, they have stuck to their story for almost 50 years. And some people will say that Travis Walton took a lie detector test on a TV show in the aughts and he failed it. What they don't tell you is that TV show sets people up for entertainment value to fail. And that's exactly what happened with Travis's case, because between Travis and Mike Rogers and a handful of the other men that were there that night, they have taken 5 different lie detector tests and passed every single one of them. The only one that ever failed was the TV show one that Travis took in the 2000s. So, and I know people out there listening and watching will probably think, lie detectors aren't foolproof. True. But to get 7 men to all completely pass lie detectors is pretty decent proof, in my opinion, but maybe I'm wrong on that.
Okay, Travis, you think that period where you were out, you were discovered. You came back walking along a road near Heber, right near Heber, 5 nights after you were allegedly abducted. What do you recall about coming to?
Well, I just woke up, still had some residual pain and, the grogginess, but there was a light above me. I was lying on the cold pavement, and I looked to see where the light was coming from. And just as I looked in that direction, it went off. So I don't know whether they had a light shining on me that was turned off, or the door closed or something. But it was just for a brief instant that I saw it there hovering, and then it shot straight up into the sky, silently this time.
Travis, would you could
the craft in the woods was making some very bizarre sound.
Yeah, I've read that account, that it was a humming and then high pitched, kind of on both ends of the spectrum, high and low, like a rumble. How large was this craft?
Not big, 20, 25 feet in diameter. Maybe bigger. It's nothing to judge by.
And there were 2 beings on there that had alien form, but there was another that was more human, as you describe it.
Yeah, I think that perhaps my lack of cooperation, they got the idea to have something look more human looking to, gain my confidence, because I wasn't about to cooperate with these, what I took to be monsters. And so I did cooperate with the human-looking being and others like him. Now, I don't know whether they somehow are in association with beings that look human, or were able to simulate that appearance, or even had some relationship with some Earth-based.
Now, as you can tell, here he is 50 years later, and he's still not entirely sure what happened. So he's still fighting with his memories that he has had, the incident that he has had. He will tell you that he's pretty sure they were alien beings of some sort, but he's not going to come out and flat out say that he knows for sure, because this is the only time that he has ever witnessed them.
Agency, but I was only too eager to go along with them.
Travis, it's been 50 years. Whatever happened to you that you think happened to you, that you claim happened to you, have you suffered any ill health effects in those intervening years?
Well, I was certainly very anxious about that possibility, but it turned out to be quite the opposite. For, like 20 years, I didn't call in sick to work a single time. and I was working like 12 hours a day just to sort of shut out the memory.
Travis, what have you been doing in those years since? You were on that logging crew when you were 22 years old. After all this broke, how did you continue your life as you knew it?
Well, I made myself go back to work in the woods, to face it. I took, my wife with me and weapons, but I built up the courage to where I could go back again. And then eventually I just went to work here at the local paper mill.
So that's what you've been doing in the years since. This never escapes you, though. This is your story. This will be the first line someday, sadly, in your obituary. I mean, it's the most documented that I can think of alleged alien abduction.
Yeah, and 6 other men standing by that story. At least that's the status today. It happened, and by every measure that you could judge by.
Now, the last part of this story is sort of the newer story, and people online have really grabbed onto this, and they're not looking at the full spectrum of it. In 2022, Mike Rogers made a social media post stating that he was no longer associated with the Travis Walton incident that took place on November 5th, 1975. He would no longer speak of it. He is completely washing his hands of it. And then he went on a podcast and they sort of goaded him into making some statements that got viewed to sound like they were making this entire story up. And that's really not what he was saying. The truth behind the matter is Travis was working with a producer to make a newer version of the story, little different than the Fire in the Sky crew from 1993, because in his admission, once the studio got involved, they totally changed what happened on board the ship. They wanted it more horror driven. So that's why a lot of that looks like a horror movie when he's on the ship in the movie. Everything that you see outside with the other loggers and his family and whatnot was pretty close to what actually happened. So he wanted to make a movie that was closer to what actually happened to him, and he didn't ask Mike Rogers to be involved, so he got a little angry about it. And then people heard that podcast and took it saying, see, they're coming out and admitting that they made the whole thing up, and the excuse they gave was there's all these towers in the woods to watch out for forest fires and whatnot, which there are. But they were saying they had another man up there beaming a light down. Now, this is 1975. You better have a pretty strong spotlight in a tower, a watchtower that was hundreds of feet away to make it look like what the rest of the men witnessed. So I don't know who created that whole portion of it, but Mike Rogers since has come out and said, no, I didn't say any of that stuff. I was angry. We have patched things up, and I am back on board with everything that happened in the incident. So take it for what you will. If you think they made the whole thing up, that's perfectly fine. I just find it very curious that they have passed all these lie detector tests. For 50 years, Travis and Mike Rogers have told the exact same story. each and every time, and they've done hundreds of interviews and TV shows, and the story never wavers one bit. And where was he for 5 days with no food and no water? Nobody has ever come forward to say they took him in or he was hiding with me. And yeah, do I know for a fact it happened? No, but I believe their story. Something happened in Snowflake, Arizona on November 5th, 1975. Do I know exactly what happened? No, I wasn't there. But do I believe the story? Yeah, I kind of do. Let me know what your thoughts are in the comments. And remember, if you're listening to the audio podcast, I don't have a closer for this podcast. But if you're watching the video version, you know that I do. Because nothing good ever happens until after dark.